This Scene Appreciation Day is an excerpt from the full review of RWBY Volume 3 on this channel. Moving on from one of the worst fights in the series to one of the best. Top 3, easily. A little for choreography, which is good for Volume 3, but mostly for theming, which is one of those scenes that makes me wonder if Miles and Carrie have some sort of weird curse on them, where writing poorly is the only way to generate the power it takes to write the occasional good scene. Here, RWBY, who has abandoned her team and has never been shown to work well with them despite being a leader,
I have a plan.
gets absolutely stomped by Torchwick and Neo, who are exhibiting far better teamwork than anyone else in the show up to this point ever has.
And a little help from her not friends.
Except maybe this move, but fuck you if I have to acknowledge that anything in that first fight is cool. But it makes all the poor teamwork in the rest of the series come to a head, adding weight to all of the times they have abandoned one another.
12 hours.
Nearly 2 days.
Or stand there watching Yang get hit. Or accidentally make Torchwick target one of their own teammates. And most of the time, teamwork amongst the members of RWBY boils down to, okay, thanks, bye.
I like how it reinforces the concept of a team of 4.
Ditto.
So having RWBY get taken out by this block and counter and then a wombo combo enforces the power of teamwork, except it's from the bad guy's point of view. Now, there's a lot that I don't know that some might consider important information. For instance, what are the bad guy's plans? And how much does Torchwick know about them? But he's orchestrating the White Fang and Grimm teaming up to take out the Huntsman, and he can't afford to lose.
It's not what I have to gain, it's that I can't afford to lose.
He calls RWBY the hero of Vale, mockingly, as if she doesn't know what she's standing in the way of.
You are just determined to be the hero of Vale, aren't you?
Which fits with her most consistent character trait,
That's very ambitious for a child.
naivety.
The people that hired me are going to change the world.
Whether he's talking about the White Fang or Salem, I personally don't think matters much at this point. What is important is the character dynamic of someone who,
I may be a gambling man.
for lack of a better word, knows when to hold 'em, knows when to fold 'em, knows when to walk away and when to run, and someone who is unflappably idealistic on the opposite side of a conflict the audience has no way of understanding. The protagonist being defined by childish optimism and the antagonist being defined by jaded calculation, and evil getting the upper hand both physically and ideologically, only for RWBY to turn the tables with a cheap, underhanded trick that's actually pretty funny.
You've been Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins out.
How on earth could Ruby Rose beat Neo and Torchwick? The answer was with a funny gag.
Then calling upon the powers of her optimism with the heroic cliche of saying something in itself cliched,
I don't care what you say. I will stop you. Then I'm that.
before pulling a victory out of her ass only to be met with a blast to the face and a pummeling. Again, RWBY meeting a dirty trick with another dirty trick, kicking Torchwick in the knee. Every word Torchwick says during this beatdown is solid gold.
You got spirit, Red, but this is the real world.
Unfortunately, the real world isn't the same as a fairy tale.
You want to be a hero? Then play the part and die like every other huntsman in history.
Well, you can't spend your entire life on the battlefield, even if you may want to.
The real world is cold. The real world doesn't care about spirit.
His tirade about how cold and uncaring the world is culminates with his sudden and random out-of-nowhere death that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the real world is cold and uncaring. It doesn't even care about who earned the victory the hard way. I love this scene so much that I don't even care that RWBY, who is supposed to be awful without her scythe,
She sucks without her weapon.
No.
It's a crutch.
Ruby ain't all that when she doesn't have her weapon.
Yeah, that was one of the very first things, right?
kicked 2 giant Grimm to death without it. This confrontation ended in such a way that RWBY could have learned that Torchwick was right after all because his death was the result of a cold, uncaring world.
Somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep.
Or that his death was a result of the world being a warm and caring place that falls in line with RWBY's optimistic ideology, which makes it a massively important growth moment for RWBY whether she decides to learn anything or not.